Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So, the Horus Heresy Saturnine preview happened last night and I did a live stream, but I thought what I do is allow everything to mull over and actually do a proper little deep dive in what we were shown and have a little chat about what we were shown and some of the things that they kind of teased us with. So, get a brew, get comfortable, and let's jump into it. So yeah, Horus Heresy is coming, and it is a 3rd edition. I was one of many people who were hoping that this wasn't going to be the case, and I denied the obvious right up until the last minute, and I will be completely honest, I am still very much on the fence in regards to the new edition, and I'll jump into the reasons why when we get to those relevant sections. But we're going to jump into and have a look at the models first, because some of the models are absolutely amazing. So we'll jump in. So basically, what's in the box? Now, we've seen the leaks. I shared it. We talked about it. Everyone's seen it. And this is the big sort of driving factor of, you know, what you want to do about the new edition. It's all about the box. So basically, there's actually quite a lot in this box, to be completely fair. So you're going to get essentially 40 Mark II Marines, the turret, the quad accelerator autocannon turret. Basically, as I said in the sort of leak video, it's probably going to be the same weapons on a Saturnine. It's exactly what it is. You get your 6 Saturnine Terminators, your 2 characters, and the Saturnine Dreadnought. All in all, it's a pretty impressive box. Now, I will turn around and say that when it comes to the level of value compared to the current box that is in current circulation, I would say that this one falls a little bit short than the other one. Yes, you get 6 Terminators. Yes, you get 2 characters. You get a turret. You get a lot of stuff. But the original Age of Darkness box, you got the Spartan. And for me, that box is just perfection because of what was in it, and you basically had a 1500 point army rolling straight off the bat. Maybe once we actually see points and how this shapes up with the current sort of build of the game, we'll have a little look and revisit that. But right now, the current box is, I would say, better value than this, and that's just by looking at it, purely because of that Spartan. If I sound rough, it's because I've had barely little sleep after coming off night shift, and yeah, and I'm still guzzling coffee. So you get 50 plastic Citadel miniatures, a 352-page Age of Darkness rulebook, reference, construction, 21 die, rulers, all of the good stuff. 40 tactical status and objective tokens. We're going to talk about them. Believe that. And a truly impressive transfer sheet with over 1,000 decals. So all in all, pretty impressive, which is what to be expected from GW and their launch boxes. So, Mark II Power Armor. For me, these are what stole the show, or at least some of the things that they're going to show us later on. But these were definitely amazing. I'm a big fan of the Mark II. As soon as I seen them, I was like, oh my god, they look a lot nicer than I actually initially expected. Really, really impressed. Really like them. So yeah, Mark II is just gorgeous. So as we can see here, we've got some really nice sort of painted up Iron Warrior versions of them. Let me just pull that over this way a little bit so we can see them a little bit better. And yeah, they're really nice. Full command, you get 40 of these bad boys and a load of the new weapon systems, which is these things. And you get enough of those weapons to whip out 20 guys, basically. But yeah, pretty nice kit. But that's not all. You also get the Centurion in Mark II armor. Now, the head option, I actually quite like. I actually quite like the head option here. The bare head, really kind of cool. The helmeted head with the big crest, I like that. There's something about that crest that's actually kind of cool. Very well done. I would be interested to see how convertible he's going to be in regards to pulling those arms off and pulling out and giving him different weapon options. But that helmet is really, really nice. Really, really nice helmet. I like that a lot. Obviously, we get the quad accelerated gun platform, which is the 4 accelerator autocannons. Pretty cool. Yep. Apparently can deep strike, which is kind of awesome. And then we get the Saturnine Terminators. Again, they're okay. I like them. They're big. They're on 50mm bases. They come with a lot of options with the weapons. They're going to be in units of 3. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that very shortly. Yeah, they're pretty cool. You got the options of having multiple weapons, either dual wielding the same weapons or one of each, or having a close combat weapon and a gun. So yeah, pretty cool. And then we get a couple of the painted versions. The White Scars one looks quite nice. I do quite like the White Scars one. Iron Warrior's pretty cool. Iron Hands, very nice. Very, very nice. And then we get the Praetor. Now, there has been some pictures of this guy posed differently. There's an Imperial Fist one. It's not in the article, but if you check out their social medias, he's on there. That one and the way it's posed is absolute amazing. Now, this miniature is fucking huge. Like, it is massive. They put it alongside Vulcan in during the preview, and he's big boy. This guy's a big boy. He's on I believe, a 50mm base, and he is huge. These things are massive. Really, really big. I did think what it was really funny during the preview. Obviously, they did a lot of the size comparisons, bringing in the Leviathan Dreadnought, a Mark II Marine, and even brought in a Tartarus Terminator, and had a Tartarus Terminator stood next to one of the new Mark IIs. And yeah, the Tartarus Terminator is tiny. They're weeny. They're really, really small. And yeah, it's good that they're going to be getting updated. Not right away, but they are going to be getting updated. So yeah, this one's really nice, some really lovely options. I'll be interested to see what head options it's got. And then obviously you got the big guy, the Saturnine Dreadnought. This is the biggest dreadnought in ever existence. And it is towers over the Leviathan, which is currently the largest one. It is pretty big. I'd be interested to see what it looks like next to a Telemon from the Custodi Guard. That would be kind of interesting. And then it's obviously, there we have it painted up in the Space Wolves. Very cool. And then you get your rule book and all your templates and stuff and objective measures and all of that goodness. But that is not all. So the box, for me, is pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, I'm all about the miniatures. I love the new plastics. Some of the new stuff that we're going to look at a little bit later in the video about what else is coming later on down the line looks absolutely perfection. But the main thing that people wanted to know was the rules. So we're gonna talk about the rules now. And they've kind of sort of give us a couple of tidbits, and now we're going to break it down. Now, I have concerns. I'm not going to lie. I'm not 100% a fan of this, and I have concerns. So let's jump into it and have a look at it. So, the rules changes. The top 5 rules changes of the new edition. Now, if this is the top 5 changes, yeah. Right, so first things first, challenges. You can't move in the Age of Darkness for bumping into epic heroes, carving out legends that they will echo for 1,000 or 100 centuries. Right, cool. So challenges are changing, and how they describe them is this: when two of these figures meet in combat, it should be an epic battle of the ages. So there are now a suite of options for high-level characters involved in challenges to outfight, outthink, and outmaneuver their opponent. These hard-fought duels capture the feel of the dynamic showdowns from the Horus Heresy novels, as well as increase the usefulness of these epic heroes in your battle plan, and they're great fun. Now, obviously, reading that, it kind of gives me an element of Malefax, the cards, the things like that, and then I'm intrigued to see how that works. in regards to how the challenge will work. But on the flip side, I automatically start thinking that this is going to be unbalanced as hell, because you're going to have characters, Primarchs, Sigismund, Sevatar, Abaddon, big name characters in the game that are going to be absolutely stupidly broken, and they're just going to cheese the crap out of your Praetors and your Centurions that are not named. Now, hopefully, that is not the case, and Games Workshop will prove me wrong and actually balance this. But I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually read how this works. So the next part, and this was my first red flag that got me straight away worried when I started to listen to what they were saying about the new rules. Army construction has been overhauled this edition. There are fewer limitations on your army composition, allowing you to build whatever thematic force is in your mind. This means you can build an army of jet bikes, dreadnoughts, or whatever else you fancy. The rules let you add allied detachments to your force, perhaps representing 2 legions fighting side by side, or 4 supported by stoic auxiliary or arcane mechanicism. There are still benefits of bringing some of the ambiguous but perhaps less specialised units to the field, with bonuses to your leaders and battle line infantry if they are taken as part of a balanced force, but there are no penalties for a more unusual army, and as you can tell from the picture, drop pods are returning to the game. Right, first up, that's the old drop pod. So hopefully the current drop pod is just moving into the Horus Heresy, and the new drop pod is staying for Warhammer 40k. This is something that I'm not 100% happy with. And I'm going to be completely honest, and it may sound like I'm pulling this apart and criticising it. The reason why I am going to criticise this is one of the biggest things that kept me playing the Horus Heresy over normal 7th edition 40k and brought me back from playing 40k and back playing the Heresy when 8th edition and 9th edition come out was the fact that you had a force organisation chart. I love the classic force organisation chart. Your 6 troop slots, your elite slots, your fast attack slots, your heavy support slots, your character slots, your all of this kind of stuff. This was, for me, what made the Heresy such a really good game, because you were able to build a thematic army. Now, they're saying there that you can build whatever army you want. In the current edition of Heresy, you already can. If you want to bring a jet bike army, you can. There are rights of war to allow you to do that. If you want to bring a dreadnought army, you can. There are rights of war to allow you to do that. There are rules in the current edition to let you do that. But it also kept it thematic and balanced. The problem I have with this is it's too much like Warhammer 40k. It's not what the Horus Heresy is about. All I envision with this is just hordes and hordes of veterans, hordes and hordes of Terminators, and nobody will bring the humble tactical marine or the assault marine, and no one will do that because everybody's just going to bring the most broken ass shit that they can, and it turns the game into what 40k currently is, and that isn't what the Heresy is about. So if you don't agree with me, I really don't care. That's how I feel as a long-standing Horus Heresy player. And I'm not a big fan of this. This doesn't fill me with much hope in the fact that these rules are going to be good. This kills the new edition for me straight away. Now, this could be, when they actually roll it out and show us what it is, absolutely amazing. And this is the problem with these previews. They kind of hint and sprinkle these rules at us, but they don't actually tell us what's going on, and then we kind of have to fill in the gaps. They also use language that is synonymous to the other systems. Battle line units are always linked and always going to be a language that is linked to 40k and Age of Sigmar. it also brings in that battle line element that I think they're bringing in from those games into the Heresy. And unless we see it differently, I'm not going to enjoy this or not going to like this at all. And this is my first red flag about the new system. And I'm just being completely honest there. This is, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this at all. Now, tactical statuses. There are ways of controlling the battlefield than just killing your enemy. Tactical statuses is a new way to represent the debilitating effects of the more exotic weapons in the era, pinning enemy formations in place, breaking unit coherency, shattering the resolve of their warriors, can all form part of your strategy. Now, this, for me, feels very much like Epic and Legion. This kind of feels a little bit like something that's taken out of Adeptus Mechanicus, Adeptus Titanicus, or Legion, or Epic, or however you want, and brought into the Horus Heresy. Now, I'm intrigued to see how it works fully, and I will be honest, initially reading it, I'm a bit like, okay, and I hope that this has one core principle at its core, and that is Space Marines know no fear. I know the Space Marine of the Heresy, compared to its 41st Millennium counterpart, are very two different things. The indoctrination and everything else is the reason why Space Marines often do what they do regarding morale and everything else. But I do hope that that is a core principle of how this mechanic works, because I don't want to see Space Marines running around like headless chickens, routed all the time, because that kind of breaks the immersion of what the Heresy is and what Space Marines are. Space Marines are warriors that have no fear. It's not that they don't have it, they just don't recognize it. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how this works, but it feels very much Epic / Adeptus Titanicus in nature, being brought into essentially the larger, more bigger game. Now, obviously we have Pinned, which is a status that reflects a unit as being forced to take cover. Okay, that's always been in the game for quite a while. I like that. Suppressed, it reflects a unit that is distracted and confused by heavy weapon fire. I would essentially say suppressed and pinned are both the same thing. You're pinned down, you've been taking suppressive enemy fire, and you've been pinned in place. Your head's down, you're in cover. As a former British soldier, pretty much those two terms are very much the same thing. Stunned, it reflects a unit rendered insensitive or stopped in its tracks by the sheer force of the impact, explosion, or otherwise battlefield event. Okay, interesting, cool. I'll be interested to see if we get things like shot grenades or flashbangs or things like that, concussion grenades brought into the game that will have that effect on units. That could make assault units very, very cool and very thematic. Can you imagine 15 assault marines coming into a fortified position, popping off their concussion grenades and stunning the enemy before they get in and start doing the dirty work? That is kind of cool. I like that. That's really, I can get the narrative part in my head, seeing that as we play the game, and it kind of excites me, if that's how that's going to work. Routed reflects a unit that has suffered such catastrophic revival that it must fall back. Okay. Tactical withdrawal and all of that cool stuff. I kind of get that. But again, very much feels like Epic. Now the funny one, and I'm going to rip this part apart, okay? So, when the mental fortitude of warriors were previously represented by the leadership alone, there are now 4 different characteristics for each unit. There are leadership, willpower, intelligence, and cool. What? Why? What? Cool? What? Surely they could have thought of a better word than cool. Which old heads will remember from Rogue Trader era of 40k, and which add more nuance between units of variety in the game's testing. The Legion Psyker might have a very high willpower, whilst Detect, Adapt, Communicate specialists have a high intelligence. Here's how they work. Right, okay. So basically, we've been given 4 new stats. Okay? Now, we have leadership. They still work the same way. You roll 2d6, you have to equal to or score under that stat. That's pretty standard. So, yeah, right. So what we've got is, like, willpower is kind of, the way they described it is, like, if you've been hit by a psychic attack, you might have to do a willpower check to roll under. Okay, I get this. The intelligence is kind of if you want to do sort of like some tech actions, like interact with certain elements on the battlefield. That sounds interesting. I like that narrative sort of drive of having your troops doing something on the battlefield rather than just taking objectives. You've got my attention with this. The cool is kind of something like if they've... I assume the cool one is going to be how the routed and the suppression and the sort of leadership... the sort of pinning and stuff is going to come into play. And then the leadership is obviously going to be if you're going to be routed or not. So I think each one of these would have a little different status, tactical status as we will, that will link into it. Now, as for the whole Rogue Trader thing, okay, I played Rogue Trader when I was a kid. Anybody who can remember Rogue Trader, and I still have my rulebook up on the shelf, will remember the fact that it had taken 3 people to play a game. You had the 2 players and a GM. It wasn't a tabletop game in the way that we're thinking of tabletop games today. Rogue Trader didn't really start to become that until the latter end of its life, when we started getting the compendiums and the points and what essentially would become the foundation of what 2nd edition would be. 2nd edition is basically what the tabletop version of Warhammer 40k would eventually become. Not Rogue Trader. Rogue Trader was very much a role-play game, played with miniatures, and it taken a long time to play. I remember games lasting the entire weekend. Now, there are a lot of stats, and the reason why there's a lot of stats is because it was pretty much Dungeons and Dragons with bolt guns. So yeah, the whole mentioning of the Rogue Trader is their way of market speak of nostalgia bait. Here we go, look, Rogue Trader, yeah, cool, whatever. When we get to the weapons revoked, I'll explain a little bit more why I think that that's exactly what this is. So yeah, the weapons have all been reworked. So, and you're going to see some differences straight away. So the weapons have been reworked, and all of them have now been given a damage profile. So just like current 40k and Age of Sigmar, weapons now have damage. So you can have damage 3 weapons, damage 1 weapons. Now, this is filling me with a little bit of dread as well, because it's very much like Warhammer 40k, and it makes me wonder what they're going to do with vehicles. Because in the preview, they mentioned vehicles taking multiple damage from these weapons. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that vehicles in this new edition are no longer going to work like they currently do in regards to armor values and facings and all of that stuff, and that they're going to work very much like how 40k is doing it, and they just have a big lump of wounds. So they'll have like 30 wounds or 25 wounds, because basically that's how dreadnoughts work, right? Dreadnoughts are not vehicles. They are vehicles, but they're not vehicles. They're basically more akin to monsters on the battlefield. And I've got a feeling that's how this is going to work in regards to vehicles and the weapons. Now, you look at that melee weapon, and you will see a very strange stat line. It's -2 IM. AM is A. SM is +2. AP is 2 and damage 3. Now, the way they kind of describe this is modifiers. And that is essentially what these are. They're modifiers. Very much how the current 40k works. That's exactly what these are. So if you have AM of +1, that is +1 attack. So I would imagine if it has a pair of lightning claws, it will give you +1 attack, because you've got 2 of them. The IM, I believe, is the initiative, or something to do with the initiative modifier. And this SM is strength modifier. And then the AM is attack modifier. So they've basically taken what essentially is modifiers in 40k. So your +1 attack, your -1 attack, your -1 to hit, your +1 to hit, your wounding and all of this, and kind of put it into the weapon profile. Now, if you look at the other one, the bolt pistol, the R is the range, FP is firepower, how many dice you're going to roll. The RS, I believe, is the range strength, so it's strength 4. So I'm wondering, we're obviously still got toughness, so we'll probably still have our usual chart. Strength versus toughness equals the roll that you need. And I would probably imagine that that's going to be simplified, very much like 40k, but kept in the same format, where strength 4 against toughness 4 will need 4s. If you're strength 4 against toughness 5, you're going to need 5s. If you're strength 4 against toughness 3, you're going to need 3s. If it's double, you'll do hit wound on 2s. And if you're double, if the toughness is double your strength, you'll need 6s. Okay? I'll be interested to see if they bring in you need to roll a 6, then another dice roll of whatever for anything over like a 7+, like they have currently. But one thing I will notice straight away is the AP of this bolt pistol is 5. Now, I think AP is going to work the same way, that if you are a 5-up armor save and you have an AP 5 weapon, it will just ignore your armor and you won't get an armor save, and then you'll take 1 damage. That's how I'm assuming this is going to work, just like looking at the profiles of what we have. But essentially, they've kind of sort of reworded what essentially is the same thing. So rather than firepower is basically how many dice rolls, RS is basically the weapon strength. And then the melee weapons are basically the same thing. They've kind of done the 40k Age of Sigmar thing here and kind of built it in there for you. But one of the things that you will notice straight away is there is no ballistic skill on those weapons. But ballistic skill is still on the Marines. So is the weapon skill. So I'm assuming the main concept of fighting is going to stay the same way. You still have your weapon skill. You still have your ballistic skill. That will have a corresponding dice roll that you'll need. You still have strength versus toughness. And you still have initiative, which will probably be how combat still works. So the core concept of the game is still going to be the same, but there are slight nuances and differences that they're glossing up as we're bringing in some nostalgic bait of Rogue Trader, when in reality all it is just reworded stat lines and initiative or modifiers to stats. Okay? So, yeah, not too much in regards to that. Now, that was pretty much it for the rules. Now, as I will say straight away, what they shown of the rules didn't fill me with much sort of excitement or hype. There was a lot of things that they said that made me go, whoa, this isn't the game that I've enjoyed playing for such a long time. This feels very much like 40k. I'm enjoying 40k because I'm playing 40k. I don't want my Horus Heresy to be another version of 40k. Until I see the full rules, I am going to reserve judgment, and I'm going to be looking at this that they've basically 40k'd Horus Heresy, and until I read them and they show me more, that opinion isn't going to be changing anytime soon. They're using a lot of language. There's a lot of elements from 40k that are coming into this, and I'll be intrigued to see how they do this. But initially, the core mechanics of the game are staying the same, and that's a good thing. That kind of makes me happy. So, you know, I like my big box with numbers that I can look down and look across and, oh, right. After a while, you kind of work out what you need to do anyway. But it's kind of cool looking at it, and you kind of cool, you know, we all love those boxes. This is the reason why when they brought them back in this, we all got excited. You know, That's what we want to see. We want to see those old school reference sheets and boxes and stuff. That's kind of what makes Heresy in the old world fun. So, core mechanics seem to be staying, modifiers and kind of reworded, reboxed kind of stuff is go. So, I'm on the fence. But anyway, there were more things that they shown, and that is the Legion Fellblade. We all kind of knew it was coming. Like, come on, let's be fair. This is probably one of the worst kept secrets ever. It's a Fellblade. It's a plastic Fellblade. It was inevitably going to happen. Like, I'm still expecting to see the Fire Raptor, the Storm Eagle, and all of the other resin kits that are there getting turned into plastic kits over the next few years. It's going to happen because they don't really make these resin kits anymore. So cool. Will I get one? Yes, 100%. If I get back into the Heresy, of course I'll get a Fellblade. Why would I not want one? They're really cool. I really like the Fellblade. I've liked the resin version. And I really like this one. One of the things I do like about this straight away is the aesthetic detail that it shares with the Land Raider and the Kratos. That design elements that they've crossed over between the three tanks, I think is really clever design, and I really like that. And it kind of grounds the narrative aspect of this vehicle in the setting. And it's kind of cool. I like it. I like that a lot. And it's... don't get me wrong, it has elements that are not so great. If you get a close-up picture of that heavy bolt gunner right at the side, yeah. Right, I'll let you look at it, zoom in and have a look at it, and then when you notice the second row of weapons at the bottom to the top row, you will instantly see an issue. But other than that, I like the kit, it's pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on one, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. I like it. It's got come some really nice. And in one of the other pictures on the other article, there's a salamander army, and in the background is the glaive, the glaive, the one with the big Volkite gun, and that's there. Now clearly it looks like the same kit, so it's obviously a plastic kit, and there's obviously going to be a glaive coming down at some point in the future as well, which is kind of cool. But that wasn't all. They also showed us more things. Lots of cool little teasers about what's coming many months after Saturnine drops. And we're obviously getting the little turrets, which we already knew because they'd already previewed these on our Heresy Thursday. So the Tarantulas, sentry guns, cool. It's got some nice options, but this is what got me a little bit excited. And that is the Rapier platforms. Yeah, these really got me excited because these are really cool. And, you know, back in first edition, there was like 9 of these with Phosphorex shells in Death Guard armies that were just a pain in the arse and so horrible to fight against. And it's really cool that we've now got plastic kits for these, which is really nice. Another step towards everything becoming plastic, which is always cool. But that's not all. We obviously some really looking cool crew with their new armor, and there's a part in the new rulebook that explains what this armor is. Apparently this is the Imperial armor, I believe it's called, which looks kind of nice. And then one of the ones that I wasn't expecting but very welcomed to have is the Mark II Assault Marine. Now, this is kind of cool and also exciting because if we are going to get Mark III and Mark IV and Mark V in the future, that we might actually get assault squads with them as well. And that is just so cool. Because to have an entire army of Mark V, tacticals and assault marines is just perfection. But I've been talking about these for a while and kind of expected it to happen, and that is the breaches. Now, I don't think this is going to be a full kit. I do believe that this is probably going to be an upgrade kit to the Mark III kit. I will be surprised if you buy this and there's just Mark III, but they could do. Now, most Heresy boxes come with 4 frames in it, so I can imagine it's going to be a 10-man box if it is, with 10 Marines, 2 frames for the Mark III, and then 2 frames for the shields and the weapons. It'd be quite cool to see what weapon options they get, and if you have the ability to have a shield down at the side for the sergeant or something like that. But yeah, breaches, really, really cool. We've been asking for breaches since day 1 of 2nd edition, so really nice to see. Then this new Cataphracti Terminators. Oh yes. So we're probably getting, and this is exactly what this is, upscaled Cataphracti Terminators. Absolutely amazing. I've heard so many rumours that this was happening, and to have it confirmed is really, really good. I've been banging on about this for a while. Really, really cool that the Cataphracti are coming. And I fully expect at some point in the future the Tartarus to also get updated as well, because they're definitely showing their age, and there's definitely a different scale compared to the newer elements to the original elements that we got 10 years ago. So it's really cool that we're Cataphracti Terminators are coming. It also fills me with hope that we will get Terminator weapon kits, I hope, with close combat weapons to equip them out as close combat units, or guns, range units with different weapons, rather than having them all being resin parts, like assault cannons, auto cannons, missile launchers for your Tyrant Siege Guard and full Mentaris Terminators, things like that. That would make sense, and I really hope that they go down that line and give the Terminators their own upgrade kits as well. That would be really cool. I don't know if that's true or not. This is just me spitballing and hoping, but I really do hope that that's what they end up doing with the Terminators themselves. And obviously we've got some a little bit of teaser of some Mechanicus, and then we've got this one, and I'm just going to call this right now. That model right there is the first female Custodian Guard model. Going to call it now. That's what that is. I will be incredibly shocked if that model is not a female Custodian Guard. So yeah, absolutely, completely shocked. But that is the Horus Heresy 3rd edition. Now, the miniatures and what's coming, I am absolutely here for. 100%. The rules, I am still on the fence. I'm not happy that those books right there are going to have to be replaced. The rule book, I expected to change. The Libra books, which apparently there are going to be 5 of them. There's going to be the Traitor one, the Loyalist one, the Mechanicus one, the Solar Auxiliary one, and one for the Knights. The Talons of the Emperor are up getting a PDF, and they will get one later on. And the reason why I think that is drumroll, because the Emperor of Mankind is going to be in it. I fully expect the Emperor of Mankind to get a miniature this edition, and I fully expect the Emperor of Mankind to get a model and rules in the Talons of the Emperor book, because he is in the Heresy and he does take part in the fighting, if you've all read the Siege of Terra novels. So I do think that's going to happen. I also do think that at some point in 3rd edition we will get a 6th book, 7th book, and that will be the Dark Mechanicus. I am under no illusion that the Dark Mechanicus are going to come to 3rd edition Horus Heresy. It's going to happen, people. They've already got them in Legion, Imperialis. It's going to happen for the large-scale Horus Heresy game. So if you are a Dark Mechanicus fan, I would definitely think that's going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't some form of book for the Runestorm demon element as well at some point as well. So there's quite a few straightaway factions already looking at it. So there's probably going to be about 7 or 8 of them by the time they're finished. So pretty cool. Now, it's a bit bummed out that the campaign books like Beta Garmin, Siege of Chthonia are now no longer usable, or will not be usable in 3rd edition. That sucks arse. And I hope that they've taken the time to update these campaign books and put them out as a PDF update, as a free PDF, because it would be a shame that we've lost them and they're no longer usable. And this is one of my worries about the Horus Heresy coming onto a 3-year cycle. Because the Horus Heresy is such a narrative-driven game, the campaign books for the Horus Heresy are incredibly important. People want to play games set during the Thaddeus Crusade. They want to play games during the Shadow Crusade. They want to play games during Estevan 3 and Estevan 5. They want to play games during the Siege of Terror. They want to play games at Beta Garmin. These are what makes Horus Heresy better than 40k. Because it's these narrative-driven campaigns that are so rich and diverse with lore and story, because we've read about them in the Heresy novel series. We want to play those games for those battles. We want to have it and we want to redo it. Either play it with our friends and replay it to see who can win differently, or reenact it in our own way. That's what makes the Horus Heresy so cool. And for those campaign books to be made obsolete because of a new edition doesn't fill me with much hope for this next 3 years, because it's going to get campaign books, and those campaign books are just going to be made obsolete when 4th edition comes out and 5th edition comes out and 6th edition, and it's just constant recycling the same campaign books. So what I would like them to do is in the future make campaign books generic, try to limit the amount of rules that are in there, and make it more about how it's going to be future-proofed, rather than just have them out £35, £40 splash release. Everyone buys them, and then in 18 months it's just, poof, no longer usable. It's sad, and I hope that they don't do that. And this also makes me wonder about the old world, but we're going to do an entire video on what I think is going to happen with the old world in the future at a later date, so don't worry about that. So yeah, that's the Heresy 3rd edition. I will be doing a video on every one of the articles that they dropped. I will be talking about it. I will be pulling it apart. I will be giving my opinions. You may not like those opinions. You may do like those opinions. At the end of the day, we're all entitled to them, and I am a passionate hobbyist who loves the Horus Heresy. So I will be vocal about anything that I don't like, and I will be extremely vocal about things that I do like. So far, the preview yesterday was very, very good. I enjoyed the miniatures. I am very impressed with the new kits. I'm loving the Mark IIs. I'm absolutely in love with some of the other elements that are coming later down the line. And yeah, I'm very much also excited about some of the other things. By the way, if you watch the little cinematic, there is a whirlwind in there with some old school looking missile batteries on the back. Not a Scorpius, an old school whirlwind. Kind of making me think that we might be able to get one of them as well. I really do hope so. I'm a big fan of the whirlwind. Hopefully it'll have actually decent rules rather than the Scorpius. So yeah, yeah, Horus Heresy. That's it. So it's a very long video. I thought I'd just go through everything for everybody who has not yet seen it. Everybody has. It's all been all over social media. But that's the video. So if you are liking what I'm doing, please like, subscribe and share and all of that good stuff. Mostly importantly, subscribe. It's about 71% of my viewers have not yet subscribed, so it would be really good if you can subscribe. It's absolutely free, but it means so much to the channels that you do, and it will help bring that percentage down as well. And let me know in the comments below what you think of the new edition. What are you thinking of the rules so far? What do you think of the miniatures? What are you really looking forward to seeing them reveal in the next coming months for the new game and the new edition? And do you think we will get a Salamander Praetor at some point in the future? But that is me, Pointy. See you later, everybody.